Hello, and welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast, featuring small school strength coaches from around the nation that are making the big time where they are at. Before we get to the episode, we'd like to thank our sponsors that make this podcast possible. This episode is brought to you by Plyomat. The Plyomat is a multi-faceted jump testing mat that allows you to instantly receive ground contact times, jump height, and reactive strength measurements. One thing that is unique about the Plyomat is that it allows you to connect not just one, but multiple mats together for use in multi-hurdle hops and bounds, which not only gives it testing value, but also high value in training sessions with instant feedback on athlete reactivity. It is easy to use, accurate, and affordable. To check out the Plyomat and see what it can do for your training, head to plyomat.net. That's plyomat.net. This episode is also brought to you by Powerlift. Taking your athletic facility from concept to completion can be a challenge. It is Powerlift's goal to make the process as seamless as possible from start to finish. Their weight equipment is made from the toughest materials that can withstand excessive use from coaches and athletes for years to come. It's sought after for its unique design, customizable appearance, affordability, and superior warranty that training facilities deserve. Powerlift helps design weight rooms with the athlete in mind, and they pride themselves on their ability to outfit athletic facilities based on a team's unique goals. That's why high schools, universities, professional sports teams, and athletic performance facilities around the world have chosen Powerlift to help maximize their strength training goals. Call Powerlift today to be contacted with a rep in your area and give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to see for yourself why our clients are Powerlift proud. Finally, this episode is also brought to you by Vitruve. Vitruve is a velocity-based training system designed for colleges and high schools around the world. It is accurate, reliable, and affordable. The software is quick and easy to set up and use with a whole room of athletes simultaneously. Coaches have chosen Vitruve because it simplifies VBT and allows them to seamlessly integrate it on a daily basis. Check out Vitruve now for your school's free demo unit. Now, let's get to this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Big Time Strength Podcast. We're doing an episode this week that I always enjoy these. It's a roundtable episode. We have four amazing coaches on that I'm just excited to learn from them. One of the best things about just being on a podcast or being able to co-host a podcast is the opportunity just to learn from so many people. And these coaches are doing awesome things around the nation. And I just want to preface that this show is going to be specifically about training in the high school setting. I think there'll probably be carryover to a small college. I think there'll be carryover to middle schools. But what does it really look like to train high school athletes year round, whatever the situations are? That's what we're going to be looking at. So, Coach, let's take it away. Go around that same order that we talked about. Get the introductions going and let people know kind of who you are, where you're at, and a little bit of your setting.
All right. Well, I'm Kolody. I'm the strength and conditioning coach at Hunterdon Central Regional High School in Flemington, New Jersey. So we're on the western part of New Jersey. We're a big high school. We have about 2,800 students, public. I've been there for 12 years, and everything I do is after school. So my hours are 10:30 to 7-ish, and starting at 2 o'clock. Kids start coming in my weight room, and we don't stop training until 7 o'clock or after. So I'm kind of like the back end of the teacher's day. So they come in from 7:30 to 2. I go from 2 to 7.
That's an awesome setup, by the way. I haven't heard where you just have to be on the back half, but that's really cool. And that allows you to kind of have the freedom to do what you want throughout the day and prep and do all those things. So that's good stuff, Coach.
Thanks.
Scott?
Yeah, so I'm Scott Pherson. I am the strength coach, or I have a fancy title, guys. Fitness and performance director at Concord High School. It's in northern Indiana. We call it Michiana because it's like my house is 5-10 minutes away from the Michigan border, I think. We're a 5A public high school as well, being public. We have about 1,700. I had to Google it on my phone real quick while Paul was talking. I was like, oh man, I don't even know how many I got. It's my third year there, where I started something called Concord Strong, where I post all my stuff about that. I've made like a graphic to really try and give us some pride that I learned a lot about through the Plate mentorship, which is also where I met Paul. But previously, before that, I was at Columbus East High School. He talked about his day. My day goes from 0 hour, and some days like today, double 0 hour, where I do my junior high 0 hour. then my high school 0 hour. And then we switched. We were on a block schedule my first 2 years at Concord High School. And we just switched to a traditional schedule now. So then I teach after 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 periods. Seventh is my prep. And then I do after school as well. I tend to go to a lot of games. I try to the best I can. I do the warm-ups for our football squad. So on Friday nights, I'm there because I'm a transplanted football coach that was supposed to be a head football coach that found a passion in the weight room. So kind of switch paths there. But that's kind of what I'm doing up there at Concord High School right now, where we've got some of the best stuff going on. And I'm always trying to recruit. So Indiana's open policy, baby. Just come on through.
You know what? It sounds like you said that your house is close to the Michigan line, but it sounds like you just live at the school. So I don't even know about your house. Right?
Yeah, it's just here to sleep. Like right now, technically is bedtime, but I'm staying on because I get to talk with you awesome guys. But yeah, here's where I meal prep because I eat at school. So I meal prep here, I sleep here, and then I do have a home weight room in my basement.
Yeah.
So I'll lift there, and my girls have they're 8 and 5 right now. So Phoenix and Ember have been joining me down there. So they're either training at the school or training here. But either way, they had no chance. Their daddy's a strength coach. They had no shot.
I love it. Hey, for our listeners, there's a decent amount of guys that are staying up late, past their bedtimes probably, just so that they can meet with somebody from Iowa. So I appreciate their willingness to do that, and thank you guys for it. When we're going around the horn here, the next one is Nick. Nick, can you give us a little bit of background for you too?
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. My name's Nick.Ficker. I'm the director of strength conditioning at Asheville Christian Academy. We are a K-12 private Christian school located in Asheville, North Carolina. Fairly small school, about just over 1,000 families, K-12, about 270 kids in the high school. I serve as the director of strength conditioning there. See about 250 athletes every single day, 8th grade through 12th grade. And this is coming on my 10th year, and been a fun ride. Couple quick highlights. When I came on, there was no program at all. So I built the program from scratch, went from an 800 square foot PE closet to we just opened up 3 years ago, 5,000 square foot facility, state of the art facility. Still waiting on Paul to come down there. He told me he was coming, but he hadn't been down there yet. But we're blessed to have what we have, and we make a lot with what we got.
That's awesome. And it sounds like you have a huge amount of athletes for your population. So 250, 8 through 12, and there's 270 in the high school. So that's a high percentage of your high schoolers being athletes. That's a fun culture to be a part of. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just our athletes. We set up our upper school PE to be strength conditioning. I think strength conditioning is not just for athletes. I think it can be for the general population as well. And I'll tell you, man, rings and championships are fun, but when you get a kid who's very apprehensive about the weight room and they come in and they say, "Hey, coach, I'm here for the first year, and that's it. I'm gonna get my credit and move on," and then you see their name on year 2, you know you've made a difference. And so that's I got a lot of notes on my wall that talk about that, just from kids, and makes me get up in the morning and get ready to go.
Love it. There's a little namesake to the show is the Big Time Strength Podcast, and it sounds like that's big time moves there for you, man. I love it. Good stuff. Frank, you want to round us out here?
Yeah, my name's Frank Cremonese. I'm the strength and conditioning coach at Upper St. Clair High School. I literally just started this job about 14 months ago. Came from a couple other neighboring schools. Our school district, we graduated like 320 kids a year. I sound kind of like Scott. I get there at about 6:15 in the morning, and I shut down early to get home by 9 o'clock. Did get the boys to bed. I have 2 boys, 8 and 6. But I spent a lot of time at school. All of our stuff, though, is all after school. So during the school day, I'm a traditional phys ed teacher. We're working on revamping a lot of the school and how phys ed kind of works, with some of the hopes being able to train some of the students during the day. But during the free time at school, we're a block schedule group. So my block 1's open. I technically bring kids into the school during my prep period and just let them get their workouts during the day. Travel with a lot of different teams. The one interesting about my job, last year when I got hired, my phys ed job was actually in the elementary building. So I taught elementary phys ed for 1 year, which surprisingly was probably the greatest year ever. Because like if you can teach a kindergartner, squat, push, pull, hinge, stuff like that, it's so much easier to teach to a senior. But that's the general idea of kind of what I have going on there. I've been about there, like I said, 14 months, 320 kids, and 3 o'clock all the way to 9 o'clock packed full after school.
Hey, I love that. So I train with our elementary teacher, okay? And he's a great dude, amazing dude. And if you go through the elementary hallways, he is a rock star. Like there is nobody cooler in the whole school district than Coach Truitt. So I think it's awesome. The year that you got the elementary, you were a rock star for a whole year, man.
It was on for the first time ever. You're the most popular like phys ed teacher in the entire school. You know what I mean? When we won a balloon contest, a water balloon throwing contest with the custodian, me and him, there were like 7 kids that got trampled. It was the coolest thing ever, to be honest with you. And we've won. I've been around state championship teams. It was more exciting than a state championship team. So
it's the good stuff right there, man. Well, here's what I want to do, guys, is I just want to make sure that each one of you have opportunities to hop in anytime that you feel like it is something that you want to talk through. Not every one of you has to answer every one of these questions, okay? But I do think a lot of our listeners would like to hear your perspective. So my first question for you, obviously, listeners, you've heard these guys have a lot of different situations, a lot of different ways that they implement, but every one of them has to be a problem solver. What is some of the biggest problems that you struggle through with at your school and some of the ways that you found solutions for those things? So think about the biggest hurdle that you've had and maybe some of the ways that, man, you got over that hurdle and it turned into a good thing. And any one of you can hop in at any point.
Dude's trying to get us fired right from question 1.
Yes. Yeah. Dang. That's exactly right. Hey, man, I want listeners to listen.
Oh man, here I guess I'll jump in on a few different things and
here we go. You wanted to get fired,
please, dude.
Now you got it.
God, cut me off. Yeah. So, I mean, big problems, I think. And so, what else did I do besides being the strength coach? There is I also host get together every Sunday. I have strength coaches come. So I've tried as I've gotten older, realized I'm not as young as I think I am anymore, and I tend to hear a lot of issues that happen either at schools neighboring in Indiana and stuff like that when we host our like Sunday get-togethers. We lift and then we podcast ourselves and then we just kind of go, and it's a lot of fun. But something that seems to always be at the forefront is scheduling. For those of us that have the classes all day, scheduling and making sure that you get a schedule that actually works. I know Nick was big on, hey, everybody can be in here. Yeah, that's true. When you got really awesome kids, I'm sure it's fantastic. But if they're literally dumped in there, and from what I hear, and I'm just saying my issue, but from what I hear, it's, they just get placed in there sometimes. And that is where, once again, always trying to be solution finders, never problem finders. Anybody can point a problem out. That's not impressive. So something when it comes to not getting the merit of what we actually do, we're kind of looked at, oh, it's a really big room. Let's put some kids in there. And you have anywhere from a special needs student all the way up to a Division I athlete and everything in between, all in the same room at the same time. You have people that want to be in there and not want to be in there. It's really dealing with all those different personalities at once. I think that's something that in the high school setting that we have to become masters of, so to speak. You've got to be able to take all those different motivations. And yes, we want them to be intrinsically motivated, but sometimes you've got to find an extrinsic factor somewhere, whether that be putting boards up, writing goals, and trying to find ways. And somebody I had recently at our school this weekend talking with him, it's like, yeah, I get that you get frustrated with that, but it's never the kid's fault. I always give kids as many chances as I can. I don't tend to do that for adults as much, hence is why people don't like me all that much, but it's give kids unlimited chances and find ways to reach them. I think that's probably a big issue that a lot of high school coaches face, is having folks that struggle to be in with what you want to do and having the different layers, like the different abilities. And I know someone's going to say, oh, we'll just get them on program 1, program 2, program 3. Cool, man. I got 90 kids in my room right now. I'm not going to watch 7 different programs. I'm just not. It's not happening. But I can get us all together in a unified approach and trying to reach those kids. And like Nick said earlier, it is cool to see the one that's just there because they were there come back. You know what I'm saying? So there is that finding the solution within the problem. I get answering my own thing, but making sure that we're addressing issues. What do you do with those kids that maybe this isn't the best place for them? Like, it's not the best thing for the kid. That's what frustrates me. It's not the best place for the kid, but you make it the best place for the kid. You find their niche, you find what they like doing, you safely, you know, get it easier, harder, whatever you got to do to make it a good situation for them. I don't know. Feel free to cut me off.
No, I think that's great stuff to start out with, because how many strength coaches across America have struggled with what's it look like for scheduling? How do you work with registrars or counselors or administration to make sure this class is set up the way it needs to be to function at the highest level that it can? And there's a lot of different solutions along the way. Yeah.
There's tons of solutions, and there's tons of kind of, you can't overstep your bounds either. Even if I do have a cool title, or if you're just the strength coach, or you're the PE teacher or something like that, there's always those like invisible walls of like, well, you can't tell a counselor what to do. You can't tell admin what to do. They're going to put the kid in there regardless. So you need to just, I know that a lot of teachers in general, because I taught before I did this as well, tend to complain. And I've always just didn't want to be around the lunchroom. I'm not here to complain about kids. I'm here to make a good opportunity for kids. If we're going to complain, let's just figure out a way to get around it. But I think that is seriously something that if a high school strength coach is listening to this right now, I guarantee you they immediately thought of some kids like, man, yeah, that this person or this, they didn't even want to be in here, or they got forced in here or something like that. Try to find a way to make it work. They're not horrible because they want to be horrible. You know what I'm saying? There's something going on, and I can't say we're not going to be their psychologist, and we're not going to be able to fix every little problem as much as we're all alphas and we want to, but you got to be available for them some way, somehow. So that's kind of the problem, and that I think a lot of coaches may face, unless, you're at an awesome private school and don't have a bunch of kids. Sorry, I have a thing where I just pick on private school people. It's fun for me. No offense, Nick.
Hey,
Shots
anybody else
fired.
that want to weigh in on that? Yeah, go for it, Nick. You got something?
I am. I'm gonna come back at you, Scott.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, Scott makes so many good points, right? So many good points. And as I sit here and I listen to him, like, I can only think about, man, what would I do in that situation? If I woke up tomorrow and woke up and had a Concord shirt on and said, all right, here we go. What am I going to do? And I think, and again, I only know what I know. And so for me, when we got things going, when I was hired at ACA, I was a PE teacher. There was no strength program there. There was nothing to walk into. And so when I walked in and said, hey, this is what we want to start doing, everybody was like, well, we've already got a weight room. Why do we need somebody in there? And so that was the first thing. And it's, and we're a high academic school. They hang their hat on, the number of kids that go to these, big Power 5 type universities, and the number of AP classes. And listen, I was an average people everything growing up, man. So when I heard that, I was like, man, what an opportunity to give kids just a different outlet. And so one of the things Scott mentioned was just being there for the kids, being there and giving the kids an opportunity. And I think for me, that's the lens that I looked through, and it was a slow process to get it to the point where we had everything in place, classes during the day, all that kind of stuff. And I think some of the things that for me, being at a private Christian school, like some of the things I deal with is I got my starting left tackle in the same rack with my international student from China. And, she's coming in wanting to know when we're going to jump rope. And, why do girls have to lift? Because she's going to get big. She's going to get, muscular. And so trying to help these students understand, hey, what happens when you lift weights? What lessons can we learn? How can we tie this into just life in general? And I think one of the other things for me with having a smaller number of kids is I get the opportunity. I get the opportunity to build relationships with these kids. We have the unique opportunity being a private Christian school that we get to dive into lives a little bit deeper than you can at the public school. And so it's not abnormal for a kid to come in and just sit in my office and just say, hey, coach, let's talk about life for a little bit. Let me tell you what I'm going through. Have you ever been through something like this before? And so I think that's the unique thing about us as strength coaches is we spend so much time with these kids that we get the opportunity just to speak into them at many different levels. But we get to gain some respect out of those kids that maybe the classroom teacher isn't necessarily going to get because of the environment that we get to work with them.
I'd say that's one of the biggest things that stands out to me too, is just like the environment is so much different and the opportunity changes because of that. And Nick, one of the things that you said when you opened up, as I'm trying to scribble down notes, is like people asking you, hey, we already have a weight room. Why do we need somebody to run it? Like, isn't that just hilarious? But like, it's like, that'd be saying, well, we already have an athletic training room. Why do we need an athletic trainer? Like, we already have a pool. Why do we need a lifeguard? Or whatever illustration you want to use. So it's interesting things, that perspective. And then you start to shift and show that in your school district, how you can be an impact and how you can help kids, and so that they are sitting down and talking about life in your office. That's an awesome deal, man. Love it. Frank, Paul, anything you want to weigh in? Yeah, Frank, go for it, man.
Yeah, I was thinking, because basically, struggles are a little bit different every time. The one unique thing for me getting hired was not necessarily the buying of the kids, was buying of the coaches. So I got hired in a unique situation. When I got hired, they're like, you'll have full control over all strength and conditioning things. What I didn't realize is the district then basically got rid of every other strength coach or every other private sector person from their current coaches staffs, and said, you no longer get to work with our athletes. There's only one person. So I've then literally, the moment I started, there were 10 bridges burned trying to make relationships with coaches. And honestly, like, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because, I will always say I might not be the smartest person in the room, but I'll do anything I can to kind of help out every single person. So sitting down with every single coach that very first time and coming with a base understanding, like, yeah, I'm technically the one running the workouts, but your athletes better than me. Like, what do you need me to do? How can I be your assistant? And I'll always tell everybody at Upper St. Clair, I am everybody's assistant coach. I am not a head coach. Like, you'll never see HC in front of my name unless it's on a little title or something like that. But the reality is our head coaches kind of dictate, I'll say everything, but I give them the means to the end of how to get from point A to point B. And like I said, those first initial relationships were a bit rocky. I can remember talking to one of our coaches, and I called the coach, and they're like, yeah, so you're the one that just caused my best friend to get fired from a job. How's this going to work? And I'm like, oh boy. But it's one of my hardest working groups. And, a year and a half later, that coach calls me and was like, I love my best friend, but you were a better hire. I get why we finally did it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, okay. I've done good. And then as soon as the coaches bought into it, the kids are easy after that. The kids are honestly easy before the coaches, to be brutally honest. But now that the head coaches just push them there, like our head football coach, who I'm a close friend with, we had like our own like coach who I share an office with and all that. We had different philosophies. We all came together and figured it out. But at the end of the day, they have now basically said, you do anything you need to, 100% trust. But it's just those relationships being built, and there's backdoor like conversations, like behind the scenes. Like, I ask them all the time, every single time when I put in something into the workout, the very first person I ask is actually not the head coach, it's the O-line coach. Hey, here's what we're doing, why we're doing it. What do you think? And he's like, well, can we do this, this, and this? Sure, it fits into the system, fits into the unified approach, because everything that our football guys do would be the rest of athletics. It's all that big unified approach. So I try to put as many people into the pot as I can into the weight room. And honestly, that's why we have 4 volunteer coaches and 1 paid assistant right now. And everybody has a say into the program. So
Well, I would say that would be a struggle for a lot of coaches starting out at a new place, is just like getting the head coaches on board every time. That's just so hard to do. And it's so much more than just being good at the X's and O's. It's like actually building relationship and connecting on their level, whatever that is, for the experiences they had. And that's awesome that you're able to do that. And what'd you say, 14 months? Be able to get all that done?
yeah,
That's
14 months. And honestly, what Scott even said is a huge part. Like going to every team's games, or as many as you can, even though your schedule is busy. Like going to a field hockey, going to our unified bocce group, like as many things as you can, just to know that you have that care outside of the weight room. And it's not, again, it's not my program, it's our program. Like how can we all do that? And our coaches at St. Clair have been amazing at it, and it's such a short time too.
Yeah. When you come with the heart of a servant, so everyone's assistant coach, there's not too many head coaches that aren't like, oh, wait, so now I have a specialist on staff that can help me specifically with this stuff. It's like, that's nice, right? Every head coach likes that. So that's good stuff, man. Paul, you want to round us out?
Yeah. Since I'm the youngest guy here tonight, so I might as well finish it off. So, um, I see more of a challenge than a problem. All of us have been through a similar program where the first question that was asked of us was, why should anybody follow you? Why should anybody listen to what Paul Kolody has to say in the weight room? Or what value do you add to the program? Since I'm after school, I don't get the kids during the day. This is all voluntary. So they're not coming to me during the day. They either have to stay after school or come back at 5:30 tonight or 5:30 last night, like football did. The biggest challenge is getting that message out to the community. In such a big school district, with you know we have 32 varsity sports, to get that out to the parents. And it breaks my heart when I have a kid come in and is enjoying my program and says as a junior, man, I wish I would have known about this my freshman and sophomore year. So, and that's on me not getting it out to the community. And I learned from Scott how to. I believe it or not, 2 or 3 texts. I suck at TikTok, and I actually got rid of TikTok. But using Instagram and using the social media and making it fun so the kids will watch it and understand what we're trying to do in our program. I have 10 different places within a mile of my school trying to get our kids to go and train there. Plus the most unbelievable basement, gyms that I've ever seen. I'm doing it in my basement. Um, I have all of that to compete against, but I want them to understand the value of coming and lifting with your team and training with your team and learning leadership and learning recovery and all the things we talk about, but also getting it out to the parents and our administrators and the coaches. It's a challenge every day. And then, of course, you got your seniors leaving one year and you got a whole new group of freshmen coming in. And it's just that's that challenge I see. And I always try to stay ahead of it. And social media has been my go-to. I've been getting better at it, and I try. Having Power Locker has been great because I get to go on social media even more. My daughter runs the social media for Power Locker. She was doing stuff for me today, to try and help me out and get stuff on. So that's my biggest challenge, and I think it's going to be a challenge every single year that I'm there. I'm not sure I'm ever going to climb that mountain. If I do, I'm going to have to roll the rock back up it again. But that's what I see.
Coach, a couple of things that I pulled from that was like what value do you bring, especially when it's voluntary and everybody has to come back right after school. That's such a big deal. And being able to convince people that training with your team matters that's an uphill climb, maybe in an individualistic society where what's best for me, or I'm going to go get mine, instead of this team first mentality that hopefully, we're building up in a weight room. So, man, I think you nailed it with social media, getting people bought in that way, but I guarantee the product that you're giving there and the lessons that you're teaching have to play into that too. There's no way that you'd be able to train as many kids that you're training from the times that you are packed, to not be making an impact with that other than just social media. Okay. So I'm not just trying to pump you up, but I would say that if kids are coming back, and I've listened to, I think 3 different podcasts with you on it. That's why I reached out, because I want to talk to you on this one too. But when you talk about so many kids having to make the choice to come back in, just because of the way that New Jersey sets up their restrictions and stuff, right? I think that's how I heard it a couple times on your podcast. It is really cool. And I would say one of the things that every one of us have to figure out, and a couple of you have already mentioned it, so maybe you can reiterate or explain through a little bit more, but listeners are hearing this, and there's different states, different amounts of kids, different setups to their day. How are you programming for these kids that are coming through your door, right? And I've heard unified a couple of different times. Unified means different things to different people. What is your system to be able to train the amount of kids that are coming through your door in a positive, effective, efficient way? Anybody can hop in first.
Yeah, so for us, we're gonna run that unified program. For us, unified means that we're gonna follow the same movement patterns each day, right? And so we run a tier system at Asheville Christian Academy. Run it a little bit differently. Had a friend of mine who showed me some concurrent training and how he set that up. And so basically, we take our 4 basic movement patterns of squat, pull, hinge, and push, and then we're going to take those and then rotate those. So we train 3 days a week. So today was a bench day for us. So everybody today was doing some form of bench press, right? So our in season was using our velocity meters. Off season was there in our isometric block of our triphasic training right now. And then my middle school athletes were working through dumbbell bench press, right? And so if you just were touring the halls of Asheville Christian Academy and you came walking by the weight room, you're going to see a whole bunch of kids in there doing bench press as their first tier movement if you came at the beginning of the session. But what you don't see is you don't see the sets and reps. You don't see the tempos that are happening there. If you're not looking for the velocity meter sitting on the bar, you're not necessarily going to see that. And so the intent that we are lifting and the outcome that we are searching for out of that particular training block is going to be a little bit different. But as far as the movements go, they're going to be very, very similar. One of the reasons I do that is because I want to keep it as simple as possible. I want to know I want to keep what I have to coach very, very small so that I can do a really good job of coaching up my athletes while they're in there. And then we'll make variations based upon anything we have, whether it's in season, if we have in season needs, if there's sport specific needs, volleyball in season, we're going to modify some of their overhead stuff. Swimming, stuff like that. So we'll make those adjustments around the sport after that's kind of secondary for us.
That was a really nice overview. Pretty succinct. And I think that gives a good understanding for most people. One follow-up question before we move to the next is, so let's say using that bench press example, the rest of the workout, are you still going to hit the other 3 main movements that you're declaring? You just don't size them on that day. It's just 3 other, let's say, accessories or lower tiers or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, so every single day we're going to hit some sort of a push, some sort of pull, some sort of hinge, some sort of squat. And then the way that our class schedule is set up, our Mondays are a shorter training. So I have 8 classes. So I see all 8 classes on a Monday, and then I see my odd classes on Tuesday and Thursday, evening classes on Wednesday and Friday. And so those longer blocks, we're going to add in some braces, some carries, a little bit of arm farm, stuff like that. We add that stuff in on those longer days, but on the shorter day, we're going to hit the big rocks. We're going to just get in there and move fast.
Nice. I like that setup. Very good. And I like farming arms. I'm in Iowa. We do a lot of farming, and farming arms is great. That's good stuff, Coach. Who wants to hop in next?
I'll tell you what. So also, obviously, a unified approach for us. I think Team Builder helps us out tremendously, being able to have that many kids on it. I don't have iPads at the racks or VBT. or any of that rich people stuff. But told you, I just take shots, man. I just strays. But they have their phone, so they can look at it. And yes, that was always kind of like, man, I don't know if I want them to have their phone, but I kind of want them to have their numbers. You know what I'm saying? And my first school I was ever at, man, it was a tiny, tiny weight room, cement block right by the football field, no windows, no air. I mean, I graffitied it with a dad, and we had like all this graffiti in there, so it looked really cool. Definitely didn't have tech there back then. We had just notebooks, and that's what we did it all in with our percentages that we'd use. Now, with having that many kids, I'm not looking at 500 notebooks every week. So, Team Builder automating that stuff for us allows me to stay with also a tier or block approach system. We can make it undulating. We can make it whatever we need it to do. So for my money, because I see them every day, whereas before on the block schedule, I had a similar block to what Nick was stating, and I would do my after schools, and I would have this wave concept after school because I've got 4 rows of 7 racks. So I got 28 racks. Each rack is slightly different though. Like I got 1 row of cages. I've got 1 row that has jammer arms. I've got then 2 half racks, and we've got 7 lat pole. We got 7 of everything. I don't know. They must have really liked the casino and wanted 7s. So that's how our setup is. So after school, we did this wave stuff, and I loved it because I am a big time West Side conjugate. I love conjugate system. I love max effort, dynamic effort, repetition method. So we would use that as our wave, and then a small section of turf. And I use the term turf very loosely. It is green carpet on concrete is what it is. It's not turf. It is green though. So we do our athletic movements there. That's where I have my sleds. That's where we throw balls. That's where we'll jump. We'll do all of our athletic there. So on our Tuesday, Thursdays, since we went to a full schedule, I was like, all right, I really love what we do after school. We're going to move that to the Tuesday, Thursday. So our Monday, Wednesday, Friday is, I don't need to digress what he said. He nailed it. That's awesome. That's how you do that tier. You just move which one's advanced as you move on. Great explanation, Nick. For our wave, I hit a athletic, and they wave and they just move. So A racks go to B, B to C, C to D, D back over to A. Okay. Our A racks is by the turf. So that's going to be our athletic stuff. I can incorporate jammers there. We can do sleds, speed sleds, pushing and pulling sleds, throwing, however I have it stagnant to where it works. The racks right before that, so those would be our B racks, are our full cages. So that's where we'll do our lower body. Now on a Thursday, that would be a max effort lower body. On a Tuesday, that would be a dynamic effort lower body. But either way, we're doing lower body movement. And those superset with my Frankenhypers, which is a Sorinex Frankenhyper has a reverse hyper and a glute ham combo. So on one day, it's glute hams. So max effort day, it's reverse hypers. Speed day, it's glute hams. So we're always hitting those. Then on the B racks, we have our bench presses or our upper body, whatever we want. Sometimes we'll do an overhead press. Sometimes I'll get football bars out, or I have the Elite FTS American camber bars. I love those. We can do about an incline flat. I've got boards. I've got chains. Like I said, I have a playground. So we'll sit there. We'll do our presses. Once again, on a Tuesday, it's going to be a max effort press, but on a Thursday, it's going to be a dynamic effort press. We're going to go fast. And they'll superset with the lat pulls, whether I can change the attachments and all that. And then the D racks, D for dumbbells, that's where my dumbbells are. That's where we're going to do our volume. So we'll have a lower body volume day and an upper body volume day. Now, the past couple of weeks have been screwy. We've only had 4-day weeks, stuff like that. So I've turned that into a total body volume over there. But I have dip attachments when we're doing upper body. Got the dumbbells for the goblet squats, split squats. We can do hanging leg raises. We've got some Sorinex rollers. Yeah, so that's pretty much how we do it, to where I can still utilize my max effort, dynamic effort, my wave stuff. With our programming, with all of our kids, we're doing the same movements. Once again, as I previously talked about, we will regress and progress as needed. For example, today, their movement in the B racks was snatch. I have some kids that can snatch from the ground. I have other kids that are just going to do a snatch pull. Great. You're going to do what you can do. All right, that's fine. And so on and so forth. So there's variations here or there, but our core lifts at our school that we're always going to hit every week: clean, squat, bench, and deadlift, just so I can be evil on the podcast. Yep, I back squat high school kids and we deadlift them from the ground. Not a trap bar either. I'm a straight bar. I just like controversy. Here we go.
That's good. You always have to have a contrarian, right?
You got to have somebody.
If you're gonna have a round table and everybody agrees, and that's just
It's not a round table anyway. Yeah.
exactly. I love it. That's a good setup. Way to use your space. Sounds like, somebody obviously designed it before you got there. There might be things
Yeah.
that change, but honestly, you're maximizing what you've got. And that's really what we're called to do, right? Whatever you got, maximize it and make it the best for the kids. And it sounds like you kind of have a cool system now. I'm not saying you would still pick that, but that sounds cool.
It's not what I thought. Like when I first got there, I had everything programmed, like we all do. I'm a Google Sheets nerd. I had all this stuff, and I get in the room, and I was forcing it to work. But then when I allowed the room to kind of like, I don't know what would make this flow, and we've changed stuff. We've moved equipment out. We've brought in belt squats, and we brought in a couple other cool things. Like Paul said earlier, I also have Power Locker. So that's been unique for us to be able to fundraise and get some cool funds to be able to do some unique things and get little niches. Like I said, probably the best thing that I've ever bought since I've been there. Once again, I have a great room. Fantastic, huge Sornex weight room that has everything you can need. But grabbing female bars, purchasing those, just completely flipped the room on its head, and that's been the best purchase. And if anyone's listening, your females deserve something that is their own in the room. A female bar for the Olympic lifts or for any lift, but also for them to have something that's theirs is, I think, extremely important for our female athletes. I just think it's really cool, and they've owned it. It's those are their bars. They know where they are. They grab them as soon as they walk in the room. It's just something that's been really, really cool when you're building a culture.
No, that's good stuff, especially that little tip at the end. We just purchased some bars here recently, and it's been a game changer. I don't say girl or female bars. I just say if you got small hands, you can use these. Okay, you got some, honestly, some of our girls don't want to use them, and some of our girls do, and some of our guys that are a little bit on the smaller side, they're like, "Dang, I like this bar."
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
that's good stuff, man. Frank,
I'll try.
what?
Yeah. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. No.
No,
So
you're good. You're good.
like Nick and Scott, like we run a tier system. So you're going to see a lot of the same similar things. Everybody's doing a press that day. Everybody's doing a squat, and kind of like you guys have it. A couple things where I think we might differ a little bit. So we're at a district that is very well off. We'll word it that way. So there's a lot of private sector coaches that also have influence on our kids. And I usually use that to our advantage, make direct connections with every single one of the coaches in our local area. And the things that we have that hopefully are a little bit different in Western Pennsylvania, and the luxury we have at our school, as soon as the kids walk in, yes, they have their model set up on Team Builder, but as soon as they get there, after their warm up, everybody gets a force plate jump, and we get to see what their drop off is, kind of see their fatigue level. We move into some sprint stuff, see what those are like, and then we kind of tier their workouts based off of that. So we try to meet them exactly where they are that day. Between that and pre-questionnaires, just trying to get a general idea of what they are, and honestly, just talking to them. You know what I mean? Trying to get those little markers. Are they breathing chest breathing? Is their opposite hand, their pinky pulling to their palm without them even realizing it can tell you their fatigue level. So I kind of like adapt it as we go. We run an APRE system for the core lifts so that can be easily kind of bled out. We'll just say like, hey, you're like 3 steps. It's kind of like an in-season lift almost, if you kind of think of it that way. If they're so just exhausted. So we try to help them out on that. The other one is the one thing that's unique about ours is kind of like you, Scott. I think I came into a room, I tried to force our system into it, and it just didn't work. I'm still at the point where I'm like bouncing ideas on how we can best make it evolve. So we have 15 racks, plus a dumbbell area, plus a turf area. So we have A's through E's. And we pretty much go on an 8-minute rotation. The one thing that does also get interesting is, I don't know about how your guys' start time and finish time ends. Ours are not perfect. They're all after school. The first block is 1 hour and 15 minutes. The next block starts at 4:15, but then I have a group rolling in at 4:45 because of practice time. So it's just like a giant melting pot. I think, Paul, you said that to once. It's just the churn of the weight room. So like when groups come off court, they roll into the A's, and I got to make sure everybody else is at C's and D's. And I always tell the coaches, it's like 27 coaches trying to play nice in a sandbox, like making sure we're all on time. And if one clog in the wheel falls off, like how do you adjust those things? So luckily with this 8-minute clock, if we do get gummed up, I can say, hey, hold up for 7 more minutes and this will kind of continue to work. But the same thing Scott and Nick said, tier-based system, not going into too much of the X and the O's, just because it's still, in the processes of being defined, if that kind of makes sense with our kids. So,
dude, what's the pinky palm thing? What?
So
I wrote that down. I'm like, what is he talking about?
So
I have a pinky and a palm.
Well,
I was Googling it.
If you talk to any of your athletes, and one of the number one things on a fatigue level that will happen is if you are talking to a kid and their pinky on their non-dominant side is pulled to their hand more than normal, that's an automatic telltale that their central nervous system fatigue, and you should slowly shut them down. So it's like your normal resting posture. You got to get used to the resting posture. Just like, you catch a kid in a line, all of a sudden he goes chest breathing. It's like automatic fight or flight. So if I'm walking down the halls, just watching people walk, watching people move, I can usually pick out the kids and be like, oh, that kid's having a rough day. Like, what's going on? And it's just, what is the weakest part of the body? The next weakest part technically is the pinky toe, but I'm not telling them to take their shoes off and see what their pinky toe does. So it's just one of those telltale signs that I kind of use. Works pretty well. And then you just look at the force plate data and it pretty much compares to it. Because I don't know about you guys with the recovery questionnaires. I love my kids to death. They'll lie right through them. Do you know what I mean? Unless we have something to show it.
100%.
So, yeah. So,
she said non-dominant hand pinky.
Non-dominant hand pinky side. If it's typically curled underneath. Well, but I mean, it's if you're walking and moving and stuff, and you can actually see it. It's kind of funny. You can actually see it after sets too, and then it'll kind of straighten back out. Like I said, just a little telltale marker. I forget where I picked that up from. Somebody told me. I was like, wow, they're right. Somebody way smarter than me. Like I said, not gonna be the smartest person in the room, but I'll pick up those little ones.
Frank has just established himself as the most observant cat on this podcast here. Because right now, listen, I'm having trouble figuring out what I had for lunch, and he's looking at pinkies and chest breathing. Holy crap, Frank! I love it. I got to do that tomorrow. I got to figure that out tomorrow how to do that.
I'm a noticer. I always joke with people. I'm a noticer. I'll be in the middle of a gym class. I looked at one girl. I'm like, "You just get your hair cut." She's like, yeah. I'm like, that looks very nice. And the other girl looks at me like, how do you notice those things? I go, I don't notice for my own wife, but I can notice for every other student and little pinky palms. Like, I don't know what it is.
I love it.
You've got that. There's certain movies where there's like this, the main character will have like that next level of just acuity. I think maybe the last one I saw would be like The Equalizer with Denzel Washington, where he just sees stuff a little bit different than everybody else. I think he describes himself as very particular or something like that.
Now you're gonna get Paul going on movies.
Come on, let's go, baby.
I would have to say Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind, because nothing actually adds up. That's probably where it
is. Nice, love it.
Get me started on movies now. Let's go.
So, Paul, what you got for us?
Well, I love when I had my old weight room. I had about 2,000 square feet. And I love what Scott was talking about with the weight training, because that's the only way I could get everybody in the room doing what they needed to do. So I would have the racks going, I would have the hallway going, and they would move from station to station all the way through. And they'd get their big lift in. It may not have been perfect. Like everybody wants right after that CNS block to have that core lift. It didn't happen all the time, but they got everything in that they did. Now that I have a big weight room, I'm spoiled a little bit. We do things unified. I use a tier system as well, but I use programs a little bit differently. So when I was talking to Scott a couple weeks ago, we were talking about triphasic. I'll use triphasic in season and immediately postseason. So I like them to use that tempo during those times. Once I understand that they can handle the weight again, we go to APRE and we start ringing the bell. We use the APRE so that we can ring the bell. And we do that for a bigger block in the off season, unless they're a two-sport athlete. And we look to add volume. We look to add that size, a little bit of hypertrophy, and continue to build our strength. So now, if you look at our weight room, I have my spring athletes who just transitioned from 5-3-1, and now we're using chains and bands, and we're trying to build that speed so we can kick them out the door. But in the same room, we still have some groups doing APRE because it's our fall athletes who just got done with their triphasic, and yet wrestling just left and they were doing triphasic in season. And it's a little bit different, but the only time I would say that we're not unified is when I have an in-season group and I have an off-season group that are in the room at the same time. So the in-season may not be doing the exact same movements as my off-season group. So that's why I have a TV. I'll have a TV up with the in-season. I'll have my screen up with the off-season, and we'll kind of go over what we need to do, split the room down the middle, and they're both doing something. And I'm kind of standing in the middle watching them, knowing that, hey, I have 4 locations that in-season has to be in. I have 4 locations that off-season has to be in. As long as they're not standing around, I'm happy.
It's really cool. And this is for anybody that's listening. Like, it's really cool just to be able to figure out within your situation what's going to work for your setting, the amount of kids that are coming in the room, how often. I don't know if it's called like a waterfall approach, but like where one team is going and then another team comes in. You guys know what, like Frank was talking about it with the 8-minute clock of when people come in, like having the next people come in and going and going and going over and over and over, like finding out all those small things that make your weight room flow. I think most strength coaches are like suckers for efficiency. So it's really fun just to see how all of you work through that and what it looks like in your situations. And I guess one of the things I want to make sure that we get to and probably round out, time flies with this stuff, but round out the show is just thinking through what is it that you're doing to build connection in your classroom? What are some of the classroom management techniques that you've found like super helpful or beneficial? What is something that is just allowing you all to make a big time experience for your kids? Those are kind of like the 3 primers, however, whatever direction you want to go with that. But just this idea of building connection, managing the classroom in an effective way, or creating a big time experience from the things that you're doing. So whatever direction you all want to go with it, totally cool with it. But I want to go around that way and go from it. Paul, do you want to start out?
I want to start and listen to the young guys.
All right.
Building a connection for me is having kids walk in my weight room, seeing a 56-year-old old guy with gray hair, and them saying, "Oh, what's this guy going to do for me?" So I've learned from being the hard ass, making sure everything's done the right way, to I actually backed off a little bit. I want the kids to know I'm a dad, that my kids have been through this program. I've learned I've learned the gritty. We had a gritty competition in the weight room at one point, and I learned how to do it. And just having more fun with the kids so that they have more fun in our room, training, not just
Prove
lifting
it.
weights. And what's that?
Prove it.
He just wants you to dance on camera, buddy. Yeah, he wants you to dance.
I got the video. I think I have it. I may have lost it. I don't know, Nick. Put me on the spot, man.
If you find it, we'll link it in the show notes so everybody can see the proof.
I do have it. I can send it to you, Preston.
I love it.
But just having more fun myself. Before it was about, all right, everything's got to be done right, and a lot of times I walked out of there, I had a headache, and my jaw was clenched. Now I've just learned to maybe relax a little bit more, let the kids have more fun. And I think we've gotten even more buy-in and more belief in what we do because the kids are having more fun and they're getting work done. So I still let them know there's a leash, that I'm going to let that leash go as far as I need to, and then I'm going to draw them back in a little bit. But that's been the biggest connection for me, not only with the students but with some of the coaches as well. And it took a while for me, to 12 years, to figure that out, but I'm feels like I'm getting better and better with that. So I want to hear the young guys and how they're doing, because they look better than me and they do a better job than me.
Paul, before you pass it off, man, I appreciate that perspective. My goal is to be in it for the long term, for the long haul. And so anytime I see a coach that still has the passion, still is pouring into kids later in their career, I think it's amazing. And I love hearing from dudes that just want to keep on keeping on. I think that's awesome. So
it's the juice. And we learned, and we all learned from Coach McKenna. Coach McKenna was the guy who brought juice every day.
Yep.
You go into his weight room and you could hear his voice belting out, and he wasn't sitting around. He was coaching every single day. That was a blessing to me, to be so close to him and learn from him. And I got that energy, man. I'm not gonna let that go away until I walk out. I'll bring energy to, I don't know, Burger King if I go there too. So you may want to come to my Burger King once I retire, because I'm going to serve you up some stuff with some passion and energy.
I love it, man.
As long as you're serving it up with the Griddy, baby, I'm there.
That's right, Nick. BK, have it your way. And that's Paul.
That's right.
Yep. Good stuff, man. Yeah, Paul's right now. He's holding up his phone. He said he's going to look it up right now. So this is going to end up being in the show notes for everybody to look at.
Fantastic.
Who wants it next? Who's jumping in?
Do we got to say our age like he did? He was just
You don't
spouting it
have
out.
to, but
I mean,
he's proud. I like that.
I'm in my last of my.
Did I say
I'm
56?
39.
I meant 37.
Oh, there you go. See, now I'm older than you, buddy. So yeah, at 39 going on 40, I've realized I'm not. I see that's the thing. I still act like I'm a young kid. Like I act like a teenager half the time. And I think that's what makes it fun and probably why I end up in the office sometimes. But that's all right. So it's all about like when he talks about when you said building connections and managing and making that kind of like the big time there. I roll all that up into social media. I know it sounds weird. I know Paul kind of alluded to it earlier, but I really do like we came up with our logo of Concord Strong. I don't call it Concord High. I call it Concord Strong. We do weekend updates. We do videos showing what we're going to do for the wave. I get my interns very heavily involved in it. I'm on my third year there now. So I've had my third year of interns where they kind of take it over. Last year I had my Fab Five. They were awesome. First year we had the double Thomases. And now we've got Zoe and Cameron who take it over, and then Byler's coming and helping out with more of the power locker side of it. But putting the videos out there, showing them constantly, like our stories, it's so simple, man. It's probably bad too, but I just hold the thing down and I walk around and give people a glimpse into the room. Same with starting a Facebook parent page, which I think most of the parents have told me when I tell them I have a Facebook page, they look at me like I'm not as old as you. I'm on Instagram. Like I see your Instagram. I love your Instagram. That's the most thing I hear from parents is we love your Instagram. I try to keep them as updated as I can. As far as like keeping it, building that connection, going to their games, which I started this thing off with, it means so much to them to go to their games, but then to also talk to them about other things. For instance, I've introduced my kids to I talk about my kids with them and I talk about them at home to my kids. They'll know them when they come through and creating that family atmosphere within the weight room that they're my kids too. And I say that to them. My wife's also a teacher and I steal a line from her because it's amazing. She has a picture of every class she's ever taught. And it says, once my kid, always my kid. Once my student, always my student. And I love that from her. And that's how she's the exact opposite of me. Everybody immediately loves her when they meet her. Me, not so much. But like, it's really cool to see how she interacts with her kids and how we do it. And I think that's why we make a good household is that we do that. I talk crap to the kids. I mean, I've been on here and I've talked crap to Nick multiple times, Paul, Frank, I'll get you in a minute. But that's all I do. I like talking crap. I like doing that stuff. The socials, like I said, but also they'll see the real side of me. Now, like Paul said, he brings the energy when he's in there. I bring the energy. I'm loud. I'm either making fun of something or laughing about something or just constant, right? Having that energy, but also during open lifts. I love open lifts. Our spring break lifts, our Christmas under the lights, starting new traditions with the kids, which has always been really cool since I've been there, like doing things. This is what we're going to do. We do the Halloween trunk or treat, and we decorate the entire weight room. And this year I had like this big 6'6" kid, so he was Frankenstein. And we had like the lab of Frankenstein and all these kids running around. And I'll sit back and get teary-eyed sometimes watching our kids interact with other people because it is a program. Concord Strong is a program. We run youth camps. We do all kinds of stuff. And I hear you, Paul, with the leash, and it's a fine line, and it is. Sometimes it gets a little chaotic, but I'm not a blow the whistle every second guy. I'm just not wired that way. Like I said, I really enjoy the open lift time because that's the only time I'll lift around the kids. I don't think you should be lifting while you're coaching. Some people, whatever. I think that's not proper. But when it's an open lift, they'll see old coacher can still get after it. And then because it's coming up in the month of March when we do the Griffin workout, and there's a Griffin Challenge that's nationwide in honor of my son from the NHSSCA that created the scholarship in this challenge. But when I do the Griffin workout, it's 125 minutes at the school. And then they see that, oh, that crazy guy's actually got a little juice because I always put on a show for him. And those are just things that they see me be real with them. Oh man, is it Jeremy Boone that says have a relationship or have it so honest that you can someone say it better. Nick, you're shaking your head. Say the quote.
Your presence doesn't make a difference. It's your presence. Oh, Paul, you just ate dinner with him, man. You probably got it.
That one's if your presence doesn't make a difference, then your absence won't make a
difference. Your absence to be strong enough that it can for any conflict.
Truth. Yeah. You withstand any truth. And we say that at the beginning of the year, and I tell them I'm going to be honest. Like you can say coach is a dick, whatever. Like I'm honest. I don't lie. And that's the one thing my girls know, like that are upstairs that I'm probably talking too loud. So they're probably not asleep, but they know, and I'll hear them say it. Daddy doesn't lie. Like I don't lie. You may not want to like what I say or want to hear it, but I'm not going to lie. I don't lie to my kids. And as I described earlier, those 500 folks in that room with me right now, them's my kids. So I ain't going to lie to them.
Good. Unashamed. Right, man? You are who you are. I love it. And
absolutely.
Oftentimes, if we can be who we actually are in the classroom, in the weight room, in our training sessions, right? Our classroom, I think it just means that there's going to be more connection that happens, right? Because we're being real. We're just being ourselves in that situation. So I love it. That's good stuff. Also, it sounds like if you're talking some crap, you're probably getting crap thrown back at you too. So that's got to be a little bit of a fun.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. They got some good ones too. They'll get me. It's all good.
I saw a tweet today. I can't remember who put it out there. I don't even remember who put it out there, but it said something about like strength and conditioning is 50% like knowing your X's and O's, then 50% getting flamed by kids and flaming kids or something to that effect. And it's like, I don't know if I do it that much, but it's still funny.
I don't know if I want to follow Scott's up there because it was such an amazing way of kind of just understanding where you're coming from and everything that you do. But I'll try to take the next pass at this. Plus, try to find something you can make fun of me for besides the pinky thing. But we'll find something out on this.
I mean, I'll get it. I'll get some. Don't worry.
Okay, that's all right. We got other times. Good. Yep. There you go. That might be. Never mind. I'll take that back, Paul. Never mind. So for me personally, just building the connections with the kids is one, like you just said, making know that they're human, or like that we're all human and we all have our differences. And mine is usually just I always say the difference of personalities I bring to every single room, depending on what it is. So if I'm inside the gym class, I'll be honest, T Swift is jamming out in regular gym class and I'll be singing right beside it. And I could care less. Like
you need to give Tate McRae a listen.
What'd you say?
Give Tate McRae a listen. If you like T Swift, you're gonna like some Tate McRae. I'm just saying. All right. Go ahead.
But then the next song could be a Metallica song. I'll be singing with it and just showing personality in that. The other one for me is like, I don't just stay on the athletic wing. So we have 3 wings to our building, probably like a lot of people: athletics, arts, and academics. I get to the academic side as much as I can. I get to the art side as much as I can. I mean, growing up, like, yes, I played football. Yes, I was in wrestling and track, but I was in choir. I was a chamber choir president. I was in jazz band. So I'll find myself in their classrooms. Now, I can't do any of that anymore, but I still pretend I can. And that definitely helps out with the kids, just building those connections. The other one for me is, like, I had an elementary last year and I'm high school this year. I still go back to the elementary building. Like, we have off day 1. So we have a mod schedule. We have a block schedule on days 2, 3, 4, and 5. But on our day 1 is literally 40-minute classes. So our phys ed teachers don't teach. So during our day 1s, I go back to the elementary building as much as I can to come back to reality, but just to see those kids grow up. And then the other one is, like, I'll do anything I can to make sure they're successful, which might sound strange, but like on a Friday night game, I'm pre-packaging every single one of their snacks for halftime or before the game. Like at halftime, I always call myself Team Mom. Orange slices and apple juice. I'm filling up Gatorade cups. I'm getting cold, wet towels, covering up their face. I'm doing all that kind of stuff.
Butlers don't do that for them?
What'd you say?
What are their butlers doing that day? I thought
they're yeah, we are. But I'm Team Mom. And that's fine. You know what I mean? we have fueling stations for our kids, and I make sure they have their snacks, and then I make sure they have their snacks for the ones that are glucose intolerant and stuff like that. So they just know, deep down inside, I'll do anything I can, even if it means take time away from my own family, which, we got to make sure we keep that in check, but, try to do as much as you can for them.
I think you did a great job following up with Scott. And Scott was throwing stuff at you in the middle of your stuff, man. So it was all good.
I had to.
I actually muted him.
He told me.
Yeah.
I muted him somehow.
Sorry, I got excited. Paul just sent me a movie.
I was going to say, we just got a text from Paul.
Yeah.
All right. We got the Griddy.
My entertainment.
Going to be linked up, man. This is going to be great.
That's it. Man, I mean, all three of these guys nailed it. For me, building connection in classroom management, that comes down to one word, and that's relationships. I'm gonna get to know my kids. I'm gonna get to know my kids as best as I can. Around the weight room, around the school, just like Frank said, showing up at different events. I'm gonna be at games when I can. I'm gonna bring my two kids with me. They like to come and hang out. We've made it a Friday night ritual for my little boy, who's a sixth grader. He'll show up and he'll run the sidelines with me and hang out with me, which is a lot of fun. But also showing up to a band concert, man. A strength coach shows up to a band concert, and people are like, "What are you doing? What's going on?" This is what you do. I want to come see, I want to come see you in your element. I think for me, some of the classroom management stuff is, kids want to know, they want to know what the borders are. Hey, what are the rules I got to follow? What are the standards and the expectations, and where's the border? All right. And so when you give them that and you say, hey, look, well, I'm gonna walk with you, but when you get up to that border, like there's gonna be consequences for that. The standard's the bare minimum. You got to meet the bare minimum. Expectation, that's the ceiling. All right, that's where we want you to get to. Anything in between, that's what we call growth, right? And that's what we're gonna walk together through all that as we go throughout the year. And then making the big time where you're at, it's putting it all together. It's having fun with the kids. It's, just like Scott said, it's giving kids a hard time. It's poking fun at kids. It's, one of the things at my school this year has just been talking about old man strength, and letting kids know, some kids, you got to let them know a little bit more that old guys still got it. And, but, I think at the end of the day, it's making sure the kids they feel safe, they feel comfortable, they feel like they can be themselves around you. And if you hold them accountable and you can create an environment with that, man, you can take a kid farther than they will ever dream they can go by themselves.
Nick, that was really good, and every one of you crushed it. Here's what I get jacked up about is just being able to talk to coaches that are truly trying to make the big time where they're at for their student athletes, for their regular Gen Pop students, for anybody that comes into their classroom. It's just so fun for me to hear that and to hear your guys' perspectives. And I just want the opportunity for anybody that listens to this episode to maybe continue that conversation on. So if you are a coach listening to this and you want to learn more from one of these guys, we'll link up their contact information in the show notes. And if you have specific questions, maybe you heard something, maybe it was a pinky to the palm, or if it was, yeah, exactly. I want to look into it now. Like, you hear stuff like that. I know, like Cal Dietz, he'll throw stuff like that out there all the time of like how something affects other things. If you want to reach out to one of these guys about anything that they talked about or diving into your situation, it sounds like they're crushing it where they're at, and it sounds like they'd be able to help you out in a lot of different ways. So, guys, thanks for coming on the show. Thank you.
Stop for a second, Pherson. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But
no, you're good. I love it.
When you send me a text, I don't want to keep anybody up later. When you send me the text to say, who would you want to be in a roundtable with? This was a no-brainer for me because, we talked about energy. These three guys and these squares right here give me energy every day. I have a pair of pit vipers because of Coach Pherson. I'm going to say I have a pair of pit vipers. My med ball wall I think of ways to make my med ball wall better because I posted mine up. Coach Ficker put up the giant A, like his was like, holy crap. I couldn't believe it. Like it just kept my energy going. And I can't say enough about Crem. You know, when my daughter had a severe peanut allergy at the University of Pittsburgh and we were still 3 hours away, Frank left an Easter egg hunt with his kids to go sit in a hospital with my daughter. And you know, those connections to me and the energy these guys bring, not only to our profession, to their schools, to their community, but to me. And I'm going to say, if you're a young coach and you're not reaching out to guys that were your mentors at least once a month, that means more than you know to those coaches, and it brings the energy level up in me every single day. So I appreciate all of you guys and what you do for me and how you keep me going. So thank you guys. And listen, my Pit Vipers, you all have my video. It can't go out there on TikTok. You know, that stays between us. Preston, you can put it on. I'm okay with that. That's all right. But
I love it. Hey, Paul, you did a great job of summing up that show. I just like being around people that want to build others up, right? And I think that's what strength coaches are called to do. And it's a huge part of our job. And just thankful for you all making the big time where you're at. So thank you for coming on the show.
thanks, Preston.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.